To this lesson, and today we will be starting pre-algebra unit 1 integers. The first thing that would come in anyone's mind would be, what exactly is an integer? The ability to work comfortably with negative numbers is essential to success in algebra. Integers are all the positive whole numbers, 0 and their opposites, which are the negatives. A few examples of integers could be 2, 3, -2, -3, etc. Let's look at the worldview connections. Where do these rules come from? The very first set of rules for working with negative numbers was written out by the Indian mathematician Brahmagupta. He documented these foundational algebraic concepts using the concepts of fortunes for positives and depths for negatives. So the rule says that if the signs match both positive or both negative, add the numbers together and keep the common sign. Now, in order to understand this rule even more better, let's look at example number 1. So example number 1 says -5 plus -3. Now if you can observe this question, you can see that both the integers, they have the same sign, right? In that case, simply add the integers. So we're going to add 5 plus 3 and keep the negative sign, right? So the answer would be -8, -8. Example number 2 says -7 plus -5. In this question, you can see that both the integers, they have the same sign. In that case, simply add both the integers and keep the negative sign. So 7 plus 5 would be 12 and the negative sign, so -12. Next case we have is case 2, which is adding integers of different signs. The rule says if the signs don't match, subtract the numbers as if they were all positive and then use the sign from the larger number. Now let's look at example number 3. It says -7 plus 2. Now, as you can see here, both the integers, they have different signs, right? In that case, simply subtract the numbers. So 7 minus 2 and then use the sign from the larger number. So here the larger number would be 7, right? So the sign of 7 is negative. So the answer would be -5. Example number 4 says -4 plus 6. Here, as you can observe, both the integers, they have different signs, right? Simply subtract both the numbers. So 6 minus 4 and then use a sign from the bigger number. In this case, the bigger number would be 6, right? And the sign of 6 is positive. So the answer would be +2. Examples of different signs. Example number 5 says 4 plus -3. Here, if you can observe the question, you can see that both the integers, they have different signs. In that case, simply subtract both the integers and use the sign from the larger number. So here 4 minus 3 is 1 and the larger number in this question is +4, right? So the sign of 4 is positive. So the answer would be +1. Example number 6 says 7 plus -10. Here both the integers have different signs. In that case, as you know, simply subtract both the numbers, 10 minus 7, and use the sign from the bigger number. So 10 minus 7 is 3, and the bigger number in this question is 10, and the sign of 10 is negative. So the answer would be -3. Here are some student practice problems. Question 1 says 45 plus 63. This is a very simple question, so just simply add both the integers together. The answer to the question number 1 would be 108. Question number 2 says -24 minus -18. In this case, both the integers have the same sign. Simply add both the integers, so 24 plus 18. 42. And in that case, keep the negative. So -42 would be our answer. Third question says -15 plus 17. In this case, both the integers, they have different signs, right? In that case, simply subtract both the integers. So 17 minus 15, which is 2. And the larger number here is 17, and the sign of 17 is positive. So the answer would be +2. The last question says 85 plus -21. In this case, both the integers, they have different signs, right? So subtract both the integers. 64 is our answer. And the larger number in this question is 85, right? And the sign of 85 is positive. So the answer to the last question would be +64. That's it. We have come to the end of today's lesson. For my sources, I've used Beginning and Intermediate Algebra by Tyler Wallace, and for the historical context, I've used Rules of Integers by the mathematician Brahmagupta from the 7th century CE. Thank you so much.